Hi everyone, and welcome to this first video in my Batteries Included series. In this free video, I'd like to give you an overview of what I'm going to cover in the series. Now, my name is Lucas Holland, and I've been an author on Show Me Do for over a year now, and a Python programmer for about 3 or 4 years. Let's start by looking at the modules I'm going to cover in the series. Now, I'm not going to explain what a module is right now, but I will in this video. For now, if you don't know what a Python module is, just think of it as an add-on that you can use in your programs from your programmer's perspective. Okay, so I'm going to cover quite a few modules. You can get a list of all the included modules in the Python library reference at this address. There's also a module index. The first module I'm going to cover is the sys module. As you can see, it gives you access to system-specific parameters and functions. I'm going to cover how to get command line arguments that are passed to your script, how to use them, how to extract them. And I'm also going to shed some light on how Python actually finds modules on your system, and the sys module plays a role in that. Next, I'm going to go over the OS module. The OS module, as the name implies, allows you to deal with the operating system, and what's so cool about it is that this gets done in a platform-independent way. Within the OS module, there's also some path-related functionality for dealing with paths, also in a platform-independent way, and I'm also going to cover that. Now, next, I'm going to move on to the shutil module, which basically gives you some additional file-related functionality. The OS module also has functionality that allows you to deal with files, and the shutil module kind of extends that and gives you some extra options. Then I'll move on to the glop module, which is used to basically get a list of everything in the directory, and then you can filter that list using a pattern. And that's actually really powerful. For instance, you could find all the files in a given directory that have the .mp3, the mp3 extension. So that's really powerful. The next module after that is the RE module. This allows you to deal with regular expressions. Now, this is a very, very powerful module. I cannot stress this enough. And I'm going to give you an introduction to how to deal with regular expressions in Python. I'm going to give you some tips, and I'm also going to point you to some documentation on regular expressions, so you can actually make use of this module. Now, finally, the last two modules I'm going to cover are the math module and the datetime module. The math module basically contains a set of mathematical functions. I'm not going to explain exactly what they do in a mathematical sense, because this is one of the easiest modules to use. Now, the next module I'm going to cover is the URLlib2 module, which is used for opening URLs. You can do some pretty neat stuff like get the HTML code from a site. That's actually what I'm going to show you. But it's also good stuff to deal with requests, send requests, and stuff like that. Now, the last module I'm going to cover is the datetime module. The datetime module, as the name implies, allows you to deal with date and time in Python. Now, this is a really, really nice module, and it's used a lot in the real world. So knowing it is definitely useful, and I'm going to give you a basic introduction. I'm going to introduce you to the classes it contains, what they do. I'm also going to show you how to get the current date and time in Python, also how to do calculations with date and time, which is also very nice. Now, okay, so this has been an overview of the modules I'm going to cover. Next, I'd like to tell you a bit about modules in Python. So if you've written any Python code at all, you've probably written modules, because every Python file that you save, every .py file, is actually a module, and everything you define in that file is a part of that module. Now, in the context of this series, I'm not going to cover any modules that are actually intended for the end user to use. So I'm not going to cover modules in the sense of programs. What I'm going to cover are modules that contain functionality that is designed for a programmer to use in his programs. Okay, but understand that every Python file is actually a module. But the modules that I'm going to cover are modules that are designed for programmers and not for end users. Okay, and that's why they're in the standard Python library. So you, as a programmer, can access them, use them in your programs that you can then deliver to your end users. Now, in Python, you actually have to import modules so to use them in your program. So next up, I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so here we are in our interactive Python interpreter, and to use a module you actually have to import it. And the same is also true for your standalone Python scripts, but I'm just going to use the interactive interpreter to illustrate this. Okay, let's say I wanted to work with the datetime module, or the math module. So I type import math. Okay, import is a Python keyword, and math is the name of the module. Now, Python doesn't raise an exception, so that means the module has been found and it's been imported. Now, within the series I'm actually going to explain what happens behind the scenes when you import a module, so that's also very interesting. Now, to access any of the functionality that's defined inside this module, you type in the module name, followed by the dot operator, and then you type in whatever you want to use that is in the module. So in our case, let's say we want to use a function that's in the module. To do that, we just type the name of the function, let's say square root, and you call that like a normal Python function. Note that you will always have to precede the function name or class name or variable name or whatever with the module name. So whenever you want to access something that's inside the math module, use math dot, and the same is also true for other modules. Also note that you have to import the math module or the module you want to use before you can actually use it. You have to import the module. Now, there's another variation to the syntax for importing modules, and that looks something like this. I'm actually going to quit out of the interpreter and start it again. Okay. Sometimes you also see stuff like this, from math import square root, and this will actually only import a single thing, in this case from the module, in our case the square root function. Now, the function is an object, so I can basically just pass it around as an object. That's why I don't have any parentheses here, because I'm not calling anything, I'm just dealing with the object itself, the function object in this case. And then you'd actually be able to use it like this. You don't have to put in the math dot anymore, because you've only imported this object from the math module. Now, I'd be very careful when using this, because having to precede the function or class name or whatever, the identifier, with the module name is actually a good thing, because it helps clean up your namespace and keep it clean, so you always know where a specific function comes from, or a class, or a variable. Now, another thing you'll find people type is stuff like this. I'm just going to start a new interpreter again. Okay, from math, that's the same as over here, import, and then a star. And what this does is, it actually does the same as this line up here, but instead of just importing the square root function in the manner that you don't have to use the module name to access it, it would actually import everything from that module. So now I could just say square root sign, and could access pi. Now, this might seem very convenient at first, but do not use this a lot. In fact, I recommend against using it because it's not a good way to do it. Remember how I talked about keeping your namespace clean a minute ago? Well, this doesn't. This will pollute your namespace with definitions, function definitions, class definitions, and variables. Now the problem is that you don't know where these come from. Okay, you don't know that these are part of the math module. So you might accidentally actually change a variable or override a function. So do not use this method of importing. Do not use this very often. In fact, I recommend always going with this traditional approach, because it keeps your namespace clean. You always know where a function, a variable, an object comes from, and that's really useful. Okay, I hope you enjoy my series. Thanks for watching.